All righty.
And let's make sure we are actually live. It says the live button is turned on here, but there's usually a little bit of a delay getting actually live in the Facebook group. So let me see. Okay, cool. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure I hit the record button. All right, folks, we are back. We're transmitting this session live into our big Facebook group. These sessions usually will have people on here within the Zoom call that are clients of Power ISA, but this one is a treat. I will have everyone here in this one, the virtual room, everyone watching this. So welcome to these sessions, FSBO and Expired Mastery with Coach John D. Smith. Only been doing this for about 20 years in a few different markets, has had success in both of them. So welcome, John, and tell us a little bit about, we're going to talk about several topics today. I love that rapid fire, touching on several topics. If we get any questions or comments during the session, we'll try to focus on that. But in the meantime, we've got several topics we want to touch on right now, and actually topics you can run into in different kinds of markets, because guess what, right? Some markets right now, we're talking about August 2023. Some markets are as hot as they've ever been, like Charlotte, like other markets like that, Florida, other places. And some markets are feeling the shift really, really hard. They're more towards the Austin, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Denver side of the room, right? Where inventory is increasing, right? And prices are not going up and up and up every single month. If you're more towards the Austin side of the room, that's your market. Listings are sitting longer than they used to, right? If you're more towards the Charlotte side of the room, where days on market is lower, inventory is as tight as it's ever been, and it's putting a lot of pressure on prices. And yes, even with 7.25% interest rates or whatever it is right now, there are price increases in this market, which I didn't have that on my bingo card, wouldn't have predicted that, but that's where we are, right? So depending on where you are, we've got different topics today, okay? So John, why don't you serve up the first one, talking about in a competitive market, how do you stand out? How do you answer that question of why should it be you if there's multiple agents competing for that expired, that withdrawn, that canceled listing, that for sale by owner? Because it is very different. It's night and day compared to someone that already knows, likes, and trusts you. You have a leg up, get an advantage, right? Even in those situations, you get competition, but you have a huge advantage when you have a relationship. We're talking about someone you have no relationship with, a cold lead that comes in, or warm lead. John calls these warm leads. Warm lead you come in contact with, right? And you're having a conversation with them. How would you approach that conversation, John?
Okay, do you want it on the phone or in person, Gus?
How does it usually start for you? I'm guessing it starts on the phone, right?
Mm-hmm. So great topic, great question. So like around here, you get a withdrawn listing, even a for sale by owner, an expired listing. Most of these homeowners are going to interview 3, 4, 5 realtors before they make a decision. So I literally get this about every week. They'll say, John, we get into a conversation. It's fairly productive. And they'll say, John, listen, let me stop you right there. You sound good. I can tell you got experience, but we are waist high over here in realtors. You guys are calling me night and day, 7 days a week. So I've already committed to 3 other agents, John, to give them appointments, say next week. Why would I want to add you to the list, John? Right between the eyes. So great question. And what I do when I'm coaching agents, Gus, is I've got a ready to go, which I coach and teach. Now I've been doing it for a long time. List of reasons. And the one is going to so the point here is, why should we choose you to list our home, John? So it's going to come up on the phone. And then if we're good enough on the phone with our skills to secure the appointment, we can almost bet it's going to come up again in person, because you're going to do your best listing presentation, but 3 other agents that preceded you are going to give them their best listing presentation. They're going to say, you sound good, John, but so does the other 3. Why should we choose you? So this can turn into a day-long conversation, but I think it's so critical with a market shift. Sellers are very frustrated. Hey, our house was supposed to sell. This is supposed to be the hottest market. We're still here. All right, so we better talk to some other realtors. So the first thing I say, and then this is going to kind of pivot right into another topic, In other words, why in certain markets, homes are starting to sit a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And lesser experienced agents don't have any know-how. Uh-oh, what do we do now? We thought it would have been sold by now.
And I've got some great stories about that. As the market started shifting, I
Yeah.
saw some. Well, anyway, I'll save it. I got some good anecdotes about that
Right.
change of the market, market
Yeah.
shift.
I got to see, I'm originally from Detroit in the Michigan area. I cut my teeth in that type of market. So now I'm in Charlotte where we can't keep a listing 10 minutes.
And John, how long has that bull market been going on in Charlotte? It seems like it's been years, the market, like North Carolina in general, the triangle, Charlotte, everything.
It's funny you ask. We just saw a week ago, a publication came out other than Tampa and Miami, Florida, 2 Florida cities. Charlotte has the highest price increases since 2020, over 52%.
Wow.
So the demand is still stronger than ever.
Yeah.
And the inventory is less than ever. So the sellers are just, have the homes are pricing so high here, it's gotten utterly ridiculous. And we used to sell affordability here. We still have reasonable taxes, but the prices have gotten so high just in the last year and a half. And don't ask me how, but they keep appraising, Gus.
Wow.
They appraise with no comps in sight to justify them. So I don't know, but a good 3 years.
Wow, it's really been going just off the rest. And as the rest of the country kind of cooled off, and in some markets went in full reverse, Charlotte's been probably the most resilient market I've seen in the last 12 months. It probably slowed down a little bit for a while, but I'm pretty sure the last 3-4 months it just went right back to where it was, right? So it's pretty amazing.
Exactly. So what I do is the first thing I say, whether it's on the phone or in person, because you're probably going to get it a second time. True. Is Mr. Seller, I'm going to work your listing like no other, and stop right there. And usually that raises their eyebrows. Wow, John, I haven't heard it put that way. So how are you going to do that? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, you mentioned hypothetically, Mr. Seller, that you had 15 showings over the last 4 or 5 months, really didn't get anywhere. You had 2 lowball offers, which you couldn't accept. And that was basically it. Is that correct? Yes, sir. That's it, John. All right. Well, right off the bat, the first thing I do is, we all know how showing time works. You get a showing request, you accept or decline. The minute you hit accept, I'm on the phone within 20 minutes with that buyer's agent. I'll call him. I introduce myself. He has no idea why I'm calling. I want to hear about the buyer, because if it's not a good fit, if they're in the wrong area, looking for the wrong type of home and the wrong price point, why even bother? So what I usually start off with, Gus, is give me 5 great showings versus 15 wastes of time. Yeah. And I'll get 100%. 2 or 3 offers every time. And the sellers, for you young agents hearing this, sellers love hearing that approach and that aggressiveness, because thank goodness now we don't have to fix up the house 25 times in the next month again. You know what I mean? Because they're straightening the house and cleaning and scrubbing and all that for no reason. So what I do is I talk to the buyer's agent, and it's amazing, but in many instances, we're doing their job for them. Okay, Mr. Buyer's agent, if it was an ideal world, what type of home do you really think your buyers are after? So we go right down the list: square footage, lot size, in an HOA, not an HOI, bedrooms, bathrooms, how many garages, the whole list. So if the house sounds like it's a good fit, then I always say for last, I say, okay, let's say Tom. Okay, Tom, it sounds like this home has all the credentials your buyers may be looking for. Let me ask you, where did, let's say they're coming from Ohio. I'm just curious, where did they go to get their loan commitment letter, Tom? Now, notice how I asked that. Are they qualified? Are they pre-approved? We don't want to embarrass anybody. I'm just curious where they got their loan commitment letter. So they got a complete file ready to go to final underwriting. Gus, you'd be amazed. Half these agents tell me on the phone, John, to tell you the truth, we haven't even gotten that far yet. Wow. And they scheduled a showing appointment. Yeah. So I'm saying all this when they have no idea if their buyer even qualifies.
They have no idea if the buyer qualifies, right?
Yeah. So what's the point? Now around here, there's so little to show. Yeah. A lot of times it's a reach, and the agent will say, well, John, that's the closest thing, because there's so little to show here in Charlotte. The inventory is so tight.
Yeah.
But if they're looking in an area that's a half hour away, I mean, why even bother? Or if the listing is 550 and they're only qualified to 450, what's the point? So
Right.
that's the first thing I say. Okay, now after a showing, assuming that everything measures up and they have the showing, say tomorrow afternoon, I'm right back on the phone with the buyer's agent. And yeah, I know you get feedback on your phone from showing time, but I want to go a step further. If they say something like home showed well, but wife didn't care for the kitchen, or home showed well, but husband didn't like the backyard. Okay, I want to hear from what didn't she like about the kitchen? Is it just the color of the cabinets? I mean, a couple buckets of paint can go a long way, so to speak. Or maybe they've got a couple little dogs and they want a fenced in yard. Give them a fence allowance then. Something that can be overcome. But agents don't even begin to take those extra steps. And I say all this right in a listing presentation. I'm talking to every buyer's agent before and after every showing. And they're like, wow, you make all those extra calls? I said, every single time, because I'm looking for one great buyer. I don't need 10, one great one, and that's part of my job. So I gained a lot of cool points right then by explaining that. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Then I go into my comps. Let's talk about all the actives, all the under contracts, and all the solds. Remember I was showing you how that funnels them right to a pricing window?
100%.
It does it automatically. Then I'm going to talk about my portfolio. Now, we could do a whole session on what I have in my portfolio. That's my pride and joy.
The listing presentation, bro. It's really a key part of your listing presentation.
Yeah. So if you're not up to date, if you don't have an iPod, a portfolio, something that's easy to use, where you can show some real live recent listings, recent success stories about yourself, about your firm, even if you're a brand new agent, talk about your firm, some of your local successes.
Your team, your brokerage, whatever it is, right?
Whatever it is. So then what I do is I'm assuming that, okay, everybody's got custom websites, everybody uses the MLS, everybody's got all the other ancillary sites. I still got to come up with a couple other things. So here I'm going to introduce something like an 800 voice activated call capturing system. Many agents aren't even familiar with what that is. I've had it for 20 years in my bag of tricks. And I tell the sellers, I say, listen, we don't know where your buyer's going to come from. And the MLS here only covers 5 counties. So we have people coming in here from all over the country to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. The demand is so high. So I put on all my feature sheets to go on all my ancillary sites, because you're by rule not allowed to put it on the MLS, an 800 number, toll-free number, which captures their cell numbers. And I probably have 12, 15 extra conversations every week, buyers inquiring into my listings. And I do a live demo right at the kitchen table. They're like, wow, I've never seen that before. I say, well, that one of those could be your key buyer. So then I'll talk a little bit about my firm. Then I'll talk a little bit about how to prepare the home. I've got a whole section in my portfolio about this is how you properly stage and prepare a home to show. Okay. And by the time I get done with my list here, Gus, they're looking at it like, wow, our last agent didn't put none of this into it. We just kind of sat around, hope for a showing, hope for an offer, and obviously we're still here. So you got to get way ahead of this. And I say the way we earn our nickel, yeah, anybody can put it in the MLS and put a sign out front, but where the game is really won and lost is what goes on behind the scenes when you're talking to buyers and their agents about what they're really looking for. I tell them by the time the buyer comes up to your doorstep and rings the doorbell, you should be 90% sure of what they're looking for. So then it's just a matter, do they like the surroundings? Do they like your neighborhood? Do they like your floor plan? Are they comfortable in your price point? Then it should be go. And at that point, it's not that complicated because there's so little for sale around here. Still in most major markets, still most major markets, at least in the South around here, everybody's still struggling for inventory. We're the extreme, but Atlanta's hurting for inventory, Jacksonville, Charleston, Birmingham, they're all still way, way down on inventory because of the interest rates. That gobbled up all the inventory when it was down at 2%. So,
100%. And John, that's a great way to segue into the next topic, because most markets are in that situation, but not all markets are in that situation. Not all markets are in that situation, especially out west. Some of these markets are really having a tough time. The Austins, Phoenixes, Denver, Colorado, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, right? Always the bellwether of the next shift. Some of these, they're struggling. They've got more inventory. There's some of the few markets that have more inventory than a year ago. What happens if you have the opposite problem? You've got the listing, you convince the seller, right? You've got your sign in the yard, but the property isn't moving. So, John, what as an agent, and here's a couple quick anecdotes. I want to say this. I remember last summer, July, August, September of last year, I saw on the forums, in the Facebook groups, in my own Facebook group, agents that were desperate. They were saying, my listing isn't selling. I didn't know this could happen, right?
Yeah.
What do I do? They had absolutely no idea how to react to a listing not selling within the first 3 days, within the first 7 days, within the first 20 days, right? They were in panic mode. In panic mode, which is why we saw an uptick on those expired, canceled, withdrawns towards the end of last year. Before they were expired, canceled, and withdrawn, there was a lot of desperate agents that didn't know what to do next because they might have never seen a shifting market, a down market, or even more balanced market in their careers, right? So, John, if you're in that situation, it didn't sell that first weekend, it's sitting on the market, what should you do? What's your approach? Go for it.
So even if it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and the agent and the sellers are both starting to have a panic attack, right? What do we do then, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What I'm going to rattle off here is 4 or 5 very simple marketing techniques, because everybody listening thinks I'm going to say, drop the price. I'm going to save that. It may be the price, but it may not be. So watch this. The first thing I'm going to do is have them reassess all the photos in the house. Okay. Talk with the seller. Okay. Here's the 3, 4, 5, 6 real talking points, real selling points of this home. Are they clearly identified in the photographers, assuming they use their photographers, collection of photographs on your home? If they're not, you better get them in there right away. If they got a spectacular master bath, if they got a renovated kitchen, if they got a bonus room that's got a home theater, something really a talking point, and they don't have extra angles and shots of those talking points, you better get them in there right away because you're losing buyers. The first thing we have to do is impress the camera, not the buyer. If you impress the camera, then the buyers come. It's as simple as that.
I love the way you put that. Because that's how people are going to see the home. That's how 99% of interested qualified buyers are going to encounter your property through that camera lens, right? On the web. And that is through pictures, that through those photos. I love that.
Yeah. Got to impress the camera first. The next thing, Gus, and it's amazing how many agents don't give this as much thought as I think is critically important, is the messaging and the remarks. Like we got a brand new minor league baseball stadium up here in Kannapolis, and they've redone the whole downtown Kannapolis area, restaurants, stores, shopping, condos, townhomes that sit adjacent to this new, beautifully built, brand new minor league ballpark. So there's homes listed up there that don't even mention it. So any point of interest, easy access to 485. You sit overlooking a golf course, close to award-winning such and such high school, backing up to a ball diamond. Agents don't even put that. And what just absolutely drives me nuts, they don't even list the name of the subdivision. So one of the things I put, super sharp or spectacular 2-story located in the highly desirable Oxfordshire neighborhood of Mint Hill, North Carolina. So everybody around here knows where Oxfordshire is. It's got a lot of wow factor, amenities, all the good. They don't even put the neighborhood, and then they're missing out on key points of interest. So they're in such a rush to get this listing they got active, they don't even proof it. So the messaging, the points of interest, use a lot of capital letters. First floor master, second floor master. I mean, all things like that. I put tremendous thought to this day into all my messaging because you only got one chance to catch that buyer's eye when they're surfing through the active listings. Okay. So this goes back to what I just mentioned before, this next point, and it's huge. Talk to the buyer's agents before the showing. Get a good idea what the buyers are really looking for to see if this home is a good fit. I had one, actually about 2 weeks ago, I saw one on the internet that's supposed to be listed as 0.2 acres in a subdivision. They had it listed as 2.0 acres. And it's sat for 4 months.
Little typo there. Little typo.
So they didn't even proof it.
Wow.
Can you imagine how much confusion that caused? Okay.
100%.
So
John, I remember one time I had a neighbor list their home. This is when my wife was a realtor. I wasn't a realtor yet, but I was kind of a little miffed they didn't, use my wife to list their home. And for the life of me, I tried searching for the property with map search. I tried to look. I couldn't find it. I said, did it go pending already?
Yeah.
So it sat for 3 months, and then they decided not to sell. They canceled the listing.
Yeah.
They had a typo in the address.
Oh boy.
They had a typo in the address, and if you didn't go and look for it, almost spell out the address, the way the first few letters of the address, you couldn't find it. So if you drew a map, a circle around my neighborhood or my whole city, it wouldn't come up.
Oh,
it would not come up. And I'm pretty sure absolutely no one noticed. I only noticed months later, wow, oh my goodness. They didn't even check to make sure the address was accurate.
Wow. Dude, that's fatal. That's fatal right there.
It killed the deal, for sure. It killed that deal.
So let's do this now. I'm going to go to this whole topic of why is this home sitting? What adjustments can you make? Notice I haven't brought up price yet. So
100%.
4 or 5 items. I'm going to go 7 items before I even bring up price. So there's 3 things it takes to sell any home. And all of us veterans will relate to this: location, condition, and price. So let's talk about the condition of the house. Is it well put together? Is it well prepared to show? I mean, if it looks like they had a frat party in the house last night, it's going to struggle to sell. If you got purple polka dotted walls in 2 of the bedrooms, that may be something of resistance.
And I was seeing this, John. There's companies now that'll declutter the home for the pictures.
Exactly.
They'll artificial, but if that buyer, so the home looks great in the pictures. If that buyer steps into the home and sees it as it is, you're in for a lot of trouble, right? So even though the picture, you can declutter virtually on these pictures nowadays, right? With the new tools, they still got to step in the home, see it, smell it, feel it, right? And if it does not match their expectation in any way, shape, or form, it is a polar opposite.
Yeah,
that's not going to leave a good taste in their mouth, right?
Yep. So if it's been sitting and the home is well prepared, clean, what I call white glove clean, buyer knows you don't have to spend money. This house is ready to move in. Okay. Nothing ugly, nothing out of place. So the condition is good. If the location is reasonably good, it doesn't back up to railroad tracks or something crazy, a noise or whatever. Nice lot in a relatively nice area. If that measures up, then you have to zero focus on the price. So I went 7 items down my list before I brought up price. So, and what I tell my sellers, because they're sick of hearing about the price by the time this comes up, they don't even want to hear it. Sometimes a subtle little adjustment. Okay. 475, maybe 470. Maybe 465, because what you're telling the buyer is this: listen, we want to sell for as high as we possibly can, but we're willing to try to work with you. The minute they see price reduction, that kind of opens their eyes. Say, well, that seller is trying to work with us. They're trying to sell. And it could be a minimal price reduction. Nobody wants to look like you're desperate, dropping the floor and fire sailing it. And anybody can do that. You don't need any of us to give it away. But so I'll go through my list here: photos, messaging, points of interest, feedback, talk to the buyer's agents before and after, talk about staging. I mean, if you got some hideous 20-year-old furniture that's in all the pictures and it's just torn apart like a dog had a field day on it, you want to get that out of there. You know what I mean? Then go price, location, condition. Those are the big 3. and you pretty much got to have all three clicking. You might get away with just two, but it's price, location, condition. Now you can restage some of the rooms. And what I always recommend, if it's sitting and you think everything is well dialed in the home and you're just not getting enough activity and or offers, juggle the pictures. Change the angle of the front shot, exterior, change the picture angles of the kitchen. The photographer probably has 3 or 4 dozen he took.
Exactly. You probably have more. You got some in your back pocket, right?
So the two most important rooms, and we all know this in any home, are the kitchen and the master, which includes the master bath. So if you got a really sharp kitchen and or master bath, have plenty of angles of both of those on the internet. Because who picks the house? Usually the missus. And the first thing she wants to see is, what is my new kitchen going to look like? And what is my master bath going to look like? Everything else is way down the totem pole. So those two rooms have to be really, really jumping. Okay. And everyone knows this. So that's what I do in terms of homes that are sitting. If you go down that list, it should help. And if all of these are already buttoned up, then I would suggest a slight price adjustment. Doesn't have to be major. And then when you least expect it, you'll get a couple of offers. Because when you hit the right number, boom, it's going to hit the right radar screen of buyers. And then here they come. And then here comes a couple of offers. So that's kind of how I do it, Gus, in terms of when a home is sitting, what appears to be just too long, that's how we kind of assess it. And it usually works. Okay.
No, and that's great, John, because I think sometimes people need to understand that if your only knee-jerk reaction, your only response to the listing not selling in the time frame you anticipated is price, the seller notices that.
Oh, yeah.
The seller just understands you don't have a plan, right? This is just, hey, we're trying to, well, yeah, if we give it away, we'll sell it, but the point is not to give it away, right? So I think that having a game plan where you have options, you give the seller some options, I think is really, really important, because otherwise it seems like it's amateur hour, right?
Oh, yeah. See, you notice I kept price for last, Gus. Here's my thinking. When you get right down to it, and you and I have been in the business a long time, right, Gus? Here's my thinking. So you're talking to the seller. Okay, maybe it's time for a price reduction. So let's say they're at 425 and they don't want to budge. And you say it should be 415, but they don't want to budge. They don't want to hear you. If everything else, and that's why I lead with everything else, the marketing, the intangibles, the ingredients of the home presentation itself. If somebody really, really likes that house and it's listed, it should be 415, they'll pay 425 because they don't have 10 more of those right now to choose from.
100%.
So take $5,000, $10,000 on the price of a home and amortize that over the cost of a 30-year mortgage. How much are we talking about per month? Pennies.
A few bucks.
Yeah. So if they really like the house, they'll pay 425. They'll pay 415. They'll pay anywhere in that, maybe not a $20,000 drop, but 5, 8, 10,000. It's the same buyer, and they'll pay it because 90% of them have to get a loan. Right. But they're missing the point. No, I don't want to budge on my price, John. Okay, fine. Well, then something else is not clicking here. Either the photographers are missing critical points, you're missing key details in your messaging and your remarks, or both, or not enough of the real selling points of the home are being seen because you're not getting enough traffic, meaning you're not getting appropriate offers. Then come in with the price. It works like a charm for me because you want to get them working on their house to make sure the house is dialed in at all times.
Make sure you've exhausted all of their options so that they also understand that it should be priced. And John, quick question for you, because this pricing conversation can take many forms, right? Yeah. There might be a situation where you want to, exhaust any other options first, but there's also another, I want to ask you about this really specific situation. And I think we can finish it off on this question, which is what happens when you take a listing and John, you're taking it a little bit high, right? Mm-hmm. But in a market like this, it's competitive, all these factors. You're saying, you know what, let's test out the market. I'm willing to go to that price. It's not my suggested price. It's not what the market indicates, but the seller might be stuck on that. It might be adamant on that. Yeah. Under what conditions do you take that listing, right? If they want to go above your recommended price. And how does that conversation go later
Yeah.
if you have to make that price adjustment 30 days in, 60 days in? How would you recommend people handle that kind of a situation?
Great point, Gus, because that comes up nowadays more than it did a year ago for sure, right?
100%.
What I say is this. So let's say it should be 550, but the seller wants to list it at 570, 575. Okay, Mr. Seller, here's my suggestion. I'm as ambitious as you. I want to make sure you get absolutely top dollar. I think that's a little aggressive, and this is the market we're in here to get a little aggressive because here's what I say, Gus. Here's my analogy. Let's find out where the ceiling actually is. Let's get 5, 6, 8, 10 showings in here as soon as we can. Make sure they're all looking for your style home in this area, in your price point, and let's let these buyers talk back to us. Let's get some critical feedback to let them tell us what they think of the home. And within that, the pricing conversation will come up. So my best indicator, because we use coming soon over here. So before you go active or right after you go active, if I'm getting lots of calls and you're getting lots of showing requests, we're probably right close to where we need to be price point, because the buyers are all anxious to see your home. Okay. If my phone is sitting quiet and your requests are just minimal in this tight of an inventory market, they're sending you a polite message. Okay. Now, if I hear a negative in terms of feedback once or twice, I don't give it a huge grain. But if I hear it 3, 4, 5 times, they don't like this, they don't like that, or the price is too high, and they keep mentioning it, then we probably need to reassess it. So what I'm going to suggest to you is we can go ahead and list it at 570 or 575. I think it should be 550. That's what the comps in the neighborhood are showing us. But let's find out. So if we go 2, 3, 4 weeks and here's my indicators, Gus, here's my indicators. Are you getting second showings? Are you getting third showings? And obviously, are you getting offers? If you're getting a lot of activity and no second showings or offers, they're sending you a polite message. What they're saying is the package you're offering at that price is a little bit too much. And they'll tell you, because buyers don't have 10 more of these homes, Mr. Seller, to choose from. So that will answer itself. I'll take the listing at 570 or 575, but if it's not happening, after 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to be suggesting to you pretty aggressively, I think we need to make a price adjustment. And if they tell you then, John, that makes sense, but I can tell you right now, we got to have X amount out of this house to move to Myrtle Beach, then you got to make a decision. So then you got to really hone in on the comps to see what the other ones have, what they're offering, compare everything from A to Z and see if it's realistic. Because what I'm trying to do when I know I got a listing that's slightly overpriced, let's see how close we can come. So the last part of your question there is awesome, Gus, because you get buyers agents calling you and they'll say, hey, Gus, listen, great listing, great home. My buyers love it, but we think you're way out of line on your price. All right, Mr. Buyer's agent, here's what I would suggest to your buyer. They love the house. You just said it's a great house, great lot, real nice property, has everything on their checkbox list. So why don't you do this, Mr. Buyer Agent? Have your buyer make us the best possible offer they can on what they think is perfectly fair and give us a starting point. And I'll gladly present it to the seller and we'll see if there's a happy medium somewhere in between that satisfies both. But I can't do that until you get me to paper with an offer.
You got to put it in writing, right? You got to put it in writing.
Yep.
And just the fact that they're making the call, John, means that they're not that far off, right? I mean,
exactly.
They're in the ballpark. You're saying, you know what? You have any offer? As most of my experience was as a buyer's agent, did a lot of listings, but I mostly worked with buyers when I was active. And that was my first question. Hey, John, how's it going? Beautiful property. How many offers are you expecting? I just throw it out there. They don't have to tell me anything. They don't.
Right.
It's probably not in their best interest to reveal any of that information. But again, people get to know you in the industry. You know each other. You're usually like honest. Hey, you're expecting a lot of offers. Any offers on the property yet? Any offers in yet? And just listen. Let's see where we're at. I'm taking the temperature because when the market's moving so fast, You might think it's overpriced, but you just think it's overpriced. It might not actually, it might just be where the market's at. You're just not there yet, right?
Right.
But if I'm taking the temperature, and just the way they answer that question is going to tell you a lot, right? Where they're at. Hey, my clients love the property, but man, do you think there's some wiggle room there with the seller? Because I think it might be a little bit on the high side. Sometimes the listing agent, it was almost like a therapy session. I know, right? I'm trying to get them to get something more reasonable. Sometimes the listing agent will just give up the bag. They would just let you know, yeah, man. I mean, put something on paper, Gus. Give me your, tell them to give them your best foot forward, and I can work with this person to get them to where they need to be. There's something reasonable. Okay. So we're trying to put a deal together, right? The listing agent knows exactly that it's overpriced in most cases. And and they're like, let's put a deal together. Give me something in writing I can show to my seller and go, see, this is where we should be. And we got someone interested in this price range, not the one you would suggest. This is where the market's at. And, and the buyers are telling you this. What do we do? Okay, let's counter. Okay, let's counter. Let's put a deal together, right? Because a lot of times the agents, they want to put a deal together, right? They don't want it to not sell and sit and not make anything happen. But I remember that conversation was so key. That communication was so important, because when it's sitting and it's not selling, of course the listing agent wants to take those calls and they're willing to discuss it. When the opposite of that is your market, John, where it's you've got 20 buyers agents calling up. And John, it was always hilarious to me sometimes, right? When I was on the listing side, I got to be on the listing side a few times with really hot. It was the beginning of a seller's market in Seattle, 2013, 14, 15 timeframe. It was already starting to become. It came from a huge buyer's market to slowly becoming a seller's market. Okay. And some agents just didn't get the memo, right? They'd call using that same script, the price reduction script they had used for years, right? Oh. And they didn't know I had another 5 offers already in hand. They go, Gus, man, my buyers like it, but I think we need some wiggle room. Like, you're not gonna, this is not gonna happen, right?
Not in this market. Yeah.
Not in this market. I think you got to check your comps again. You got to see what's going on, because I've got like 5 offers already in hand, right? And at that point, it is in my best interest to reveal that, right? I got 5 offers already in. You guys better put your best foot forward if you want to compete, right? So I've got some really good offers. I got one all cash offer, one that closed, in 14 days. You guys better bring, the thunder, right? The thunder and the lightning.
I love how you took their pulse there a few minutes ago. I love how you did that, Gus.
Just ask the question. They don't have to answer, John. And if they say, I can't reveal it, I totally understand. No, you're just doing your job. I get it. You're just doing your job.
Well, but we get around.
The answer is so important.
Yeah, we get around here. Along your same line of testing the water with that first question, they say, hey, John, are they going to go highest and best or just pick one? They're already assuming there's going to be multiple offers.
How hot is the bidding war? Like, what's their preference? Do they want to go like Scorch Earth, every one of the last line, like, highest and best, and then highest and best, and then just, I call that, Scorched Earth, right? Like,
I love that name. Yeah.
They're going to go down to the wire and get you guys, killing each other for it. Yeah. Or are they just going to pick one and have mercy on us, right? Just let it go quickly.
Scorched Earth. We got to put that on there. That's a good
100%. Because I was on the other end of a lot of those deals, and it's tough. It's challenging, right? But you grow thick skin. You get a lot better, because when and we should talk about this in another session, John. When you're in a hot seller's market like you're in Charlotte, as a buyer's agent, my toughest negotiation wasn't with the listing agent. It was with my own client. That was the most difficult negotiation, because I had to convince them.
You got to set expectations.
Set the right expectation and push them into winning the property. I had to convince them
right now, Gus.
100% to win that property. How do you we talk so much about the listing side of this equation. We should also talk about the buyer side. Hey, how do you compete in a multiple offer situation? How do you come out on top on those? Because I have a lot of clients that are focused on buyers, and some of them, they just win. They just, and I don't think it's coincidence. I don't think it's luck, right? Luck is opportunity meets preparation, right? These guys, they know how to work these buyers from the very beginning. They don't waste their time with unqualified people that can't make decisions, people
Yeah.
that just can't put their best foot forward. They're like, you're not gonna, this is the market right now. You have no chance to compete in
Right.
this market. And the best buyers agents, they're like sharks. They understand that. And they only work with the most qualified, most motivated buyers.
Exactly right. That's great stuff. We should get into that dialogue maybe next session.
Yep.
And then
for
go into
sure.
the other one. What are you currently lacking?
Oh, we didn't even touch on that one. That's true.
Yeah.
So next session, we'll also do it here in the big group. You guys are going to treat out of that. John, as always, appreciate your time, being so generous with us today. If people want to continue the conversation,
Sure.
get some advice from you on how to do a better job with these expired, withdrawn, canceled for sale by owner listings, or just listings in general, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure, Gus. Here's my direct cell number. It's area code 704-999-0896. That's right here in Charlotte. Area code 704-999-0896. Feel free to call us anytime and we'll explain in detail what we're doing here. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank
folks.
you so much, Gus. Have a great day and look forward to seeing you on the next session.
All right. Bye.
Take care.